Most people are afraid of losing their minds, but here's the truth. No one tells you. The people who talk to themselves aren't losing control. They're doing something most adults are terrified to do. They're listening. Because when the world goes quiet, when there's no screen, no distraction, no one to perform for, that voice shows up. The one that tells you what you don't want to hear, and most people spend their entire lives trying to drown it out. But the ones who talk to themselves stopped running. Self-talk isn't a disorder. It's not a sign of mental decline, loneliness, or desperation. It's a cognitive tool, one of the most powerful tools the human mind possesses. When you speak to yourself out loud, something extraordinary happens in your brain. You engage multiple neural pathways simultaneously. You're not just thinking anymore. You're hearing, processing, evaluating. You become both the speaker and the listener, and in that space, clarity emerges. Studies show that people who engage in self-directed speech perform better under pressure. They solve problems faster. They regulate their emotions more effectively. But society doesn't celebrate this. Instead, we've been conditioned to see it as weakness, as something to hide. Think about it. A child talks to themselves constantly. They narrate their play. They work through problems out loud. They don't question it. But somewhere along the way, we're told to stop. Use your inside voice. Keep it to yourself. People will think you're crazy. And so we learn to silence the one conversation that might actually matter, the one we have with ourselves. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who continue talking to themselves are doing something most adults have forgotten how to do. They're being honest, because when you speak out loud to yourself, you can't hide, you can't pretend, you can't lie as easily. The words hang in the air. You hear them. You're forced to confront them. And that's terrifying for most people, because most of us spend our entire lives lying to ourselves. We tell ourselves we're fine when we're not. We tell ourselves we'll change tomorrow. We convince ourselves that the relationships draining us are worth keeping, that the jobs suffocating us are necessary, that the dreams we abandoned were unrealistic anyway. But when you say those lies out loud, they sound different. They sound hollow. And that's why self-talk is so powerful. It strips away the comfortable delusions we hide behind. Now let me tell you what this really reveals about human psychology. People who talk to themselves have often experienced something the rest of us avoid. Deep isolation, not the kind where you're physically alone for a few hours. The kind where you realize no one truly understands what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're afraid of. And in that isolation, they made a choice. They became their own companion, their own advisor, their own interrogator. This happens most commonly in people who've been forced to rely on themselves from an early age. Children who grew up in homes where emotions weren't discussed, where asking for help was seen as weakness, where you learned that the only person you could count on was yourself. And they carry that into adulthood, talking to themselves because somewhere deep down they never learned to trust another voice more than their own. But there's another layer here, something darker. Self-talk can also be a form of self-parenting. When you didn't receive the encouragement you needed, you learned to give it to yourself. When you weren't comforted, you learned to comfort yourself. When no one validated your fears, you learned to validate them on your own. And that voice you use isn't random. It's often the voice you needed to hear as a child. Firm, guiding, sometimes harsh, because that's what felt missing. This is why you'll hear some people criticize themselves out loud while others encourage themselves. They're reenacting the internal dynamic they internalized years ago and trying to correct it. Now let's talk about what most people miss, because not all self-talk is the same, And the way someone talks to themselves reveals far more than they realize. Listen carefully next time you hear someone muttering to themselves. Are they asking questions or making statements? Are they calm or agitated? Are they solving a problem or spiraling into one? There's a difference between productive self-talk and destructive self-talk, and understanding that difference can protect you from yourself and from others. Productive self-talk sounds like coaching. All right, let's break this down. I can handle this. What's the next step? It's methodical, grounded, solution-focused, the voice of someone who's learned to regulate their own nervous system, someone who doesn't need external validation to move forward. And these people are dangerous in the best way because they don't wait for permission. They don't need reassurance. They trust their own judgment, which makes them harder to control. Destructive self-talk is different. I'm so stupid. Why do I always do this? Nothing ever works out for me. And this is the voice of internalized shame, self-punishment, learned helplessness. And here's what you need to understand. People who engage in constant negative self-talk were trained to do it. Somewhere in their life, they absorbed the message that they weren't enough, and now they enforce that message themselves, becoming their own oppressor. No one else even needs to criticize them anymore. They'll do it for you. And this is how trauma survives, not through the original wound, but through the voice that keeps reopening it. You'll see this in families, where a parent who constantly belittled a child doesn't need to be present for the damage to continue, because that child grows up carrying the parent's voice with them, criticizing, doubting, undermining, and it sounds like their own thoughts now. But here's the warning. If you talk to yourself, pay attention to the tone. Is it compassionate or cruel? Is it helping you think clearly or trapping you in a loop? Because the voice in your head can either be your greatest ally or your most relentless enemy, and you get to decide which one it becomes. There's one more pattern you need to see. People who talk to themselves in public without shame have crossed a threshold most people never reach. They've stopped caring what strangers think, and that's either profound freedom or complete disconnection. Look closer. Are they aware of their surroundings? Can they shift back to the present moment? If yes, you're seeing someone who's prioritized their internal dialogue over social performance, and that takes courage. But if they're lost inside it, if the internal world has replaced the external one, then what you're witnessing isn't madness, it's fracture, and that requires compassion, not judgment, because we've all been close to that edge where the noise inside becomes louder than the noise outside. So, here's what I want you to remember. Talking to yourself isn't madness, it's meaning-making. It's the mind organizing chaos, processing what it can't ignore, trying to survive in a world that rarely makes sense. But the quality of that conversation matters, because you can spend your whole life talking to yourself and never actually listen. Or you can use that voice intentionally to challenge yourself, guide yourself, and become the person you needed when no one else was there. The people who talk to themselves aren't broken, they're awake. And maybe, just maybe, the rest of us should start listening. If this unsettled you, good. That means you're paying attention. Leave a comment. Tell me what you talk to yourself about when no one's listening. And if you want more uncomfortable truths, subscribe to Mind Enigma, because we're just getting started.